Thank you so much for being here. It's so lovely to see everyone's faces today. I want to start off by thanking the Providence Preservation Society Executive Director Marisa Brown and Advocacy Manager Adriana Hazelton for their leadership and for organizing this. So if we can give them a round of applause, we really appreciate it. Thank you for all that you do, and thank you to all of you who care about historic preservation. I want to thank my colleague, Councilwoman Helen Anthony. I don't know if she's here, but hopefully she'll be making her way. But if she can't make it, of course, we can give a round of applause to my colleague there. And to the neighbors, the College Hill Neighborhood Association, the abutters, and all who have joined us today in support of these precious homes, hopefully being preserved behind me. For full disclosure, I'm here in my capacity as a city councilman, not in my capacity as an employee of Wheeler. So my views as a councilman are not a reflection of my employer. I just would like to state that for the record. We're gathered here today because these three beautiful homes behind me are set to be potentially demolished. While we were able to demand accountability and transparency, and certainly buy time with our stop work order, given the lack of notice required by city ordinance, the owner and applicant were able to reapply for a demolition permit. So what does that mean? By legal right, the owners are able to move forward with the demolition. However, with no development plans in place, the demolition and subsequent empty lot here will leave a massive hole and scar in this neighborhood. And although we have no legal recourse, we do urge the owners of the following. First, we believe the owner should reconsider, and in solidarity, we oppose and say no to demolition. Demolition of these properties and these housing units with no plans is a travesty to the community, especially in light of the housing crisis that we face. Second, although not required by ordinance, should they heed or not heed the call to not demolish, we believe neighbors and stakeholders need to be kept informed and kept abreast of any forthcoming plans, and that transparency and communication is vital for the future. We believe that safety should also be of utmost priority, and the implications of whether it's the noise, the dust, the debris, be taken very seriously so as not to adversely impact students, families, the employees, and the travelers who are traversing this area. Ultimately, we're here in solidarity of these three homes. 217 Angell Street, built in 1839, believe it or not. 211 Angell Street, built in 1895, and 209 Angell Street, built in 1857, believe it or not, 1857. And we're taking a stand in protecting the historic vibrancy of this community. Now, should these homes be demolished, which we again implore the owners to reconsider, I'd like to call for a preemptive moment of silence in honor of these historic homes and their contributions to the neighborhood. Thank you. We say no to demolition. No. Thank you, and I'll turn it over to Marisa Brown, Executive Director of the Providence Preservation Society. Thank you, Marisa.
Thank you, John. And I want to recognize John's leadership over the last few weeks in staying on top of what's happening here, because these houses actually could already have been gone if not for John stepping in last week. And I also want to thank, this was pulled together very quickly with John and his staff and College Hill Neighborhood Association. As John said, I've been at Providence Preservation Society for a month so far as Executive Director. Nice to meet you all, for those I haven't met before. But I think there's today, and there's a lot of, we want to kind of, think about and reflect on and acknowledge these buildings today together. I think what John was also saying, and I'm completely on board with, is there's a lot of work to start tomorrow in terms of thinking about how to make this kind of a thing less possible in the future. And I look forward to PPS being supportive and trying to help in those conversations and developments. So, sorry. What I wanted to do today was share a little bit of what we know about these buildings and who lived in them as we contemplate their passing, which may come as early as tomorrow. So this is a tribute in some ways while we still have the buildings. I think we all know that as early as tomorrow morning, they may be demolished. As John said, these three homes were built between in the 1850s to 1890s. 209 was first in the 1850s on the corner, and the next two were built in the 1890s. So this is sort of the last era of residential building in this neighborhood, right before brown and commercial buildings sort of took over in the neighborhood. 209 at the very end was noted at all these buildings in the National Register description of the College Hill Historic District. We don't know who the original owners or architects were, but we do know that by the 1930s and 40s, it was a series of doctors' offices, as were the other two. One of these people was Siebert J. Goldowski. Does anyone know that name here? Yeah, okay. So Siebert J. Goldowski was a Providence surgeon who taught at Brown and wrote a number of books, including an incredibly important history of Jewish life in Providence. It was a history of Temple Bethel. It was a history that was considered one of the kind of early important books about Jewish culture in America. So Siebert J. Goldowski had his office in 209 for a while. 211 in the center is the building we know least about. 217 right behind me is the one that we know most about. So it was the original home of John Howard Appleton, who, like Goldowski, was a professor at Brown of chemistry, and he wrote 12 books on chemistry. In the 1930s to 1950s, it was the home of George Metcalf, who was a 1913 Brown grad and later trustee of Brown, who ran a local ad and PR firm. And I have to say, I wish we knew about the women who probably took care of these homes more than those men did. I wish we knew about the laborers who built the homes. I wish we knew more about the people who maintained them over the 130 years, but we don't. These are sort of some of the remnants of what we know. I think what's important to keep in mind is we know they were built as residences, but they found later use in the 1930s through 50s as offices. And so I think as we look to the future here, these homes already went through a period of adaptive reuse. They found a way, and Providence people found a way, as much as the neighborhood was changing, to make them work for the city. So I'm agreeing with John. I hope that, that maybe if there's a chance to not demolish them and sort of think really creatively about how these places might be revisioned for the future, Providence Preservation Society would love to be a part of that conversation, would love to support that conversation as we kind of think about what the value of these places for us and our city. So with that, I'm turning it over to all of you. So it was kind of created as a vigil. We know that a vigil is often an event that happens when someone has already passed. We know that these buildings could pass as early as tomorrow. We hope they don't. But it's a really important, a vigil is also a way for community to come together in this moment and reflect on what is important about a person usually who's passed. So with that, we have a microphone. If anyone else would like to share thoughts, feelings about these buildings, hopes for the future, neighbors who live in the neighborhood who kind of want to talk about what these buildings mean to them, the mic is open, and I would encourage you to step forward while you have an opportunity. Yeah. That we don't know for sure.
Who the current owner is?
Would you like Okay, sorry. The question was, who is the current owner? And the answer, I think, is we don't know for sure. Would you like to? And sorry, if you're going to speak, just say your name.
My name is Don McClure. I was a business that I'm affiliated with was an occupant of 209 Angell.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want me to hold it?
No, I can hold it. The new owner of these buildings, they did change hands in the latter half of September, I believe. The former owner, the name of the former owner was 217 Angell Investments, which was Rhode Island LLC. The new owner, the name of the it's a Delaware LLC that was just formed, and the name of that company is 217 Angell Investments Roman numeral 2 LLC. So I was very familiar, being 2 doors away, with the former owner and the principal of that business, 217 Angell Investments, was Ed Bishop. When my company owned that building, 209, for about a little over 15 years, we purchased it in 1998 and we sold it in 2014. It has some beautiful architectural features because we brought it back to life when we moved in. We did a lot of restoration of features of the building. It's sad to see it go. I mean, but there's really, I believe, nothing that can be done to put a stop to that. Because of the permitting process for being able to do the demolition. I'll pass this on.
Thank you. That's an amazing coincidence. Anyone else use these buildings?
Hi, thanks everybody for coming out this afternoon. My name is Chris Tompkins, and I'm embarrassed today that we're here at 4:30 on a Monday afternoon after the legacy that was brought to us by the founders of the Providence Preservation Society, which made Providence a leader nationally in historic preservation. And here we are in 2023, and we have to be standing here out in the cold viewing 3 buildings that are under serious threat of demolition. I think it's embarrassing, and leadership needs to start listening to the people who choose to live in Providence. Most people today are choosing to move here, not because of a job, but because they want to live in this kind of environment. And it's being destroyed by special interests and outside developers, many of whom don't even live in the state. So I call upon the civic leadership of Providence to start paying attention and listening, because they need to perk up and listen a little bit better than they have been listening. Thank you.
Anyone else? Lily?
My name is Lily Bogosian, and I am the president of the Fox Point Neighborhood Association. This is not Fox Point, but I want to thank the College Hill people who have been organizing this event and trying so hard to protect these properties. And obviously, the Preservation Society, John Goncalves, I want to thank him for speaking up tonight. And it is my greatest hope that we can work together, these associations can work together to stop this, because this issue is greater than any one organization. And as Chris Tompkins just said, it is our civic responsibility, but it is the responsibility of our city to protect these buildings, because this is why we moved here. And these buildings, they may have some siding on them right now, but we've just heard from someone who said that he refurbished this house on the corner, which may not look very pretty from the outside right now. It could look gorgeous by a proper owner. And I'm sure they're out there. If we have a housing crisis, why are we taking these things down? I don't understand it at all. So thank you to those who organized this.
Hi, my name's Helen Anthony. I'm the city councilwoman for Ward 2. My apologies for being late. While I don't have anything to add concerning the historic character of the houses, I'm a relative newcomer to Providence, but I have spent a lot of time fighting the development of these, of the land beneath these three homes. And as you'll recall, the Smart Hotel was something that we successfully fought. And I'm very proud of that. I think we have to be very aware and have our heads up in terms of next steps. We're obviously waiting for some sort of development plan that's coming for these, for the land beneath these three houses, and we have to stay together as a community. Lily's right. There's a lot to fight for. This is only one small example of what's going on across the city. So I hope that everyone pays attention to what happens next, because I'm sure it's coming fast. So thank you so much for coming tonight. This is very sad.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Vincent Bonanno, and I'm president of the Mile of History Association, which is dedicated to the preservation and maintenance of the Benefit Street area and all the cross streets down there. But of course, like Lily and others, we're all interested in this whole hill and everything that's being done to it, and all the ways that we hope to preserve it. And I think the really missing person here is the mayor. I think the mayor should be here. Yes. And I think that the mayor doesn't understand preservation from what I see of what he said, and I think that he really doesn't get it. I think he thinks, like a lot of people do, that preservation has to do with looking at some fine old houses and preserving them because somebody important lives there, because they're kind of a landmark, or maybe they're a good sampling of some particular architectural style. But it's really much more than that. Preservation is about the fabric of the city. It's about not just the houses of the famous and rich of the past. It's about the fabric and the urban styles and life in the history of Rhode Island, the immigrants, the people who did all the work that got the city where it is. And I think we have a very pro-density mayor, and very pro. A lot of nice things were said about preservation at parties I went and paid to go to, but I don't see the follow-through. I see it as quite intentional that the mayor isn't here, and I'd say that to him. He's a friend of mine. He should be absolutely here. He should be absolutely making sure this thing doesn't stop tomorrow and use everything. But I think he's not here because he knows what this is about. This is about people who are against density and against demolition, and he really has a responsibility to do that. And I see a lot of his friends and even former people that are on his staff, and this is something that's really has to happen. This is a sneak attack We had the Zone 9 and the historic preservation down there, and that's a place with some 80 structures, 27 of which were Brown's University, and Brown got a kind of a no-fly zone preservation-wise, so they could do what they wish about that property. This is my alma mater, and a place that I've been involved with, and my family has been for 100 years with Brown University. They're not getting it. They want freedom to be able to do whatever they want in this place, and we have to stop it. And the people on this hill, we have to make ourselves heard. Helen has been a terrific fighter for this thing, and thank God we got her back on her feet. Helen, you look great. And so we got to do it, but we've got to let the mayor's office know we can't.
Let's go to the house.
Yeah. Where is the mayor? Where is the mayor? Where was the mayor with Zone 9, which got all the things? So I think those of you who are involved with the mayor and relate, let's let him know that this is a real thing, and this should really be stopped. This should be stopped for consideration, and we have to make ourselves heard. Wake up, College Hill. We need to get more people out here, and we need to tell the story, because we have a very pro-development mayor and people who really want to knock things down to build other things while there's a housing shortage.
Develop those parking lots.
And parking lots. And the developers, of course, are developers. That's what they do. It's not evil to be a developer, but the guidance has to come from the public sector, from the civic spirit of people who will make those who are the governors make things happen, those who are the politicians. That has to be done. At Wickenden Street, we have a disgraceful building about to go up on Wickenden Street. The mayor doesn't want to hear any objections to it. He's very much for it. Thinks it's just fine to have a 6-story building which kills the fabric of that neighborhood down there at Fox Point, and pretty much said to those of us who got in front of him, like Lily, that think it's right, they can go, they can do it. They've made it, they're an inch below the maximum. They've got a fake floor thing situation that they're taking advantage of, so we have to make ourselves heard. Sorry to go on so long.
I think the other thing I would just say too, preservation is obviously about history, but it is also increasingly about the future as we think more about carbon emissions, the carbon emissions that come from demolition and new construction. The way that we hopefully are moving towards a circular economy, which means reuse, it means adaptive reuse. So I think part of this gathering is not just looking backwards, but it's saying that we need to go forward. Heritage, historic buildings are part of our future. So I also just want to put that out there. Did you want to say something?
Hi, Sharon Steele, Jewelry District Association. We have been here before. We have seen this movie before. I'm not going to repeat anything that everyone has already said, but what is most stunning about this one is the process, or the lack thereof. This literally came out of nowhere, okay? And things that come out of nowhere are not for a good reason, they're for a bad reason. And so we're all going to wait for that other shoe to drop, but we have to do something today, and that is to stop it. Because like everything else, it takes a village. And we are that village, and we are in different neighborhoods, but the same thing is happening to all of us. And so we need to literally draw that line in the sand and say, we have seen enough. Come here and answer to the people.
I don't think it's two.
Two of the most cultivated, intelligent, experienced preservation professionals have just been defenestrated off the proper committee, and that's Clark Shuttle, who's here, and Corey DeBoer, absolute professionals, knowledgeable people. But that's a sign. That's what's going on.
Now,
Wake up, College Hill. Wake up.
You ought to tell people what's going on.
What's going on? We're trying to clear the people out of the way that are good at stopping things like this when they're not ready to be changed. So let's. That was short.
Yeah, my name's Clark Shuttle, and I was the director of the Providence Revolving Fund Committee. I was on the Historic District Commission and the Down City Review Committee. until last month, and was replaced by the mayor. And besides Corey DeVore, 2 other members were also taken off. So we lost four members on the Historic District Commission were removed, and not because they weren't doing a good job. They were actually the most active members that were on the commission.
Doing the best job.
And got taken out. So that is a bad omen, I think, and we should be vigilant. And as Vin has said, one of the things, these buildings are all on the National Register. Brook Street was all on the National Register. I mean, the last 15 years, we've just seen the demolition of probably 20 or 30 buildings that were on the National Register and formed the character of this part of the neighborhood. The whole Brook Street is completely changed, and for the worse. I mean, especially you look at the red and black building that was built a couple of years ago. It's like, oh,
So the National Register has
what's
no
that doing?
ability to stop anything?
The National Register only prevents federal funds from being used to, in some way, have an adverse effect on the buildings. And so usually that means the Department of Transportation can't widen a road if it's going to interfere with a historic building. But private individuals can do whatever they want unless they're located in a local historic district. And that's where the importance of local historic districts is really right now the only real leverage that we as a community have. But it also takes the will of the planning department and the mayor and the city council to encourage historic districts rather than discourage them because they don't have the staffing or they don't have the will to do it. The other option, at least that we should have in the National Register districts, is a 6-month demolition delay, so that once you filed for demolition, you have to hold for at least 6 months to see whether something can be done to mitigate or change the ownership of that property, and many cities have that, and these buildings have all been designated by the National Park Service and the State Preservation Office. They are significant, and the city should be taking notice that they are significant, and they should be doing something to help preserve them and make sure they stay standing.
So we all walk to the mayor's house?
Mark to the mayor's house. Mark to the mayor's house.
Does anyone else? Is anyone just too cold at this point? Yes.
Thank you very much for organizing. My name is Rick Champagne, the president of the College Hill Neighborhood Association. So I want to thank everybody for coming out today and the fellow associations. We've seen all too often some of these houses being destroyed one after the other. And it's been a dozen or so, if not more, in the College Hill Neighborhood Association, which is a very historic district. People come to our city to see these historic homes, not to see the destruction of historic homes. We're going to end up with a vacant lot, and who knows what's next. As Sharon alluded to, it's never a good sign when something happens in the Vale of Night. So keep your voices loud. And I echo what Vinny says here. I know the mayor personally, but I would find walking over to his house and standing outside and saying, stop the destruction now. The mayor is pro development, pro density. College Hill is one of the densest neighborhoods in the city of Providence. Enough here. Enough on the east side. We've had enough. Thank you.
So I just want to speak to a couple things because I think this is important. And I just want to thank the leaders of the neighborhood associations for coming out. Rich, Vin, Lily Bogosian, Sharon Steele, for your leadership. Thank you for all that you do. Can we give them a round of applause? So, Daisy, thank you for also being here, and all of you. So, there are a couple of things that are on the horizon. Number one, and I will say this now because you can hold us to this, we need to change the law around demolition permits. So Councilwoman Anthony can speak to this because she was a partner on the council when we got this passed the first time. We expanded the notification on demolition permits. I was the lead sponsor on that. That's the only reason why we knew this was going to happen. Believe it or not, that wasn't a law that was on the books. They could have just demolished these properties without any notification to the abutters. But that law isn't strong enough. So what we need to do is ensure that there's greater notification, especially to the abutters. So, Chris Tompkins, for example, the only reason why he found out, Will here, The only reason why he found out is because they were walking past the properties, and in the darkness of night, these properties could have been demolished as of last week. And I do want to actually thank the mayor for his intervention, because I reached out to the mayor and I said, Mr. Mayor, if they move forward with this demolition, that would be a violation of the ordinance. And he was very assistive in ensuring that there was a stop work order on these properties.
Where is he?
But we need to do more. We do need to do more, and we need to change the law. So that's my commitment, to revisit that ordinance, to strengthen the law on demolitions. But also, there are a couple of other things that we've been looking at. I think this is something that we certainly want to review. In other municipalities, there's a law that essentially creates a taxation on vacant lots. So we want to do everything that we can within our power as legislators to ensure that that doesn't just stay a vacant lot. And if it's not contributing to the tax rolls, that is very problematic. So that's something that we certainly want to look at as well. The other, no demo. Yes, let's say that again. No demo. No demo. No demo. No demo. The other thing that I think we need to be looking at as a city, and my colleague can speak to this as well. There are a lot of laws that are coming down to the city of Providence that are essentially being imposed by the state legislature. We have no choice over adopting some of those laws. So that's going to happen at the top of the year, and I think it's very important that people are very vigilant along that process. But we also need to look at expanding historic district overlays. That is very important. And so when we bring forth those pieces of legislation, we need your support up in City Hall. When we expanded the College Hill Historic District Overlay, again, I was the lead sponsor on that. Rick, you can speak to that. That was a years-long process. Brown University was opposed to it. The big unions were opposed to it, expanding the College Hill Historic District Overlay. We were able to get it done. We need to do the same thing in neighborhoods like Fox Point. We need to do the same thing in other areas where we can have layers of protection and regulations on some of our historic properties. And the only way that we're going to be able to compel that is by having each and every one of you hopefully participate in that process and demand that the city act on historic preservation. So again, I want to thank you for coming out. Please give the Preservation Society a round of applause, because they're not fence sitters, clearly. They are here, they're fighting the good fight, and they're not just rolling over here. And I just want to say, one of my students here is here, and I think she's got a sign here, so they're encouraging preservation from a very, very young age. What does your sign say? Just curious. What does it say? Save the houses. Yes, I love that. So thank you so much for doing that. That's so nice of you.
You wanted to take a position against the Wickham Street mess that you didn't want to comment on before that hearing?
So that's, well, let me explain.
Yeah,
so if you look at my letter to the CPC, which I would encourage you to take a look at, we had a clear stance on that. So if you're looking at bogus stories, then that's not the case.
You didn't want to comment on it when we asked for comments.
Read our letter, because what it says.
Warning section 9, we didn't get it done. Brown got 27 buildings with the no-fly zone, which they are free to knock down due to that situation. What was cleared, we didn't get it done in Zone 9, which you just said.
The College Hill Historic District Overlay.
Yeah.
I want to remind you that my predecessor, Seth Yurden, was not supportive of the College Hill Historic District Overlay. We were able to get it passed.
I don't think that helps much.
Yeah, but Ben, that's what we did. So
Shall we all go
we got it passed.
I
So, John, thank you so much.
No, thank you.
And I agree, and to the neighborhood associations and the work that you do every day, not just today. And just before people go to the mayor's house or go home for dinner or go to get warm, I just encourage everyone to kind of spend a moment looking at these houses, enjoying them while we have them, because it's pretty shocking to just realize even as early as tomorrow morning there may start to be machinery here and nothing, and they're here today while we have them. So just enjoy them while we have them. And thanks for coming. Thanks for being here. And like John said, there's a lot more work to do, and PPS will be in there with you, and it's not just this neighborhood, of course, and you know, I think also really thinking about how this is happening across the city. So thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah, stay warm.